People are easy to fool, and sometimes that makes life more fun. Here's an example of that.
So this is an Ames room, and we're going to show you exactly how it works. So when I head this direction, I get really large, and Dylan, you shrink. So if you want to know the reveal, we're going to move the camera back, and you can see that we're actually inside a really funky room. Now if I go over here, I'm the one that shrinks. Over the years, we've created some really fun illusion rooms in order to make our videos. I'm actually off to paint one of them right now, so take a look.
Now stay with me. I have a train of thought here. People are easy to fool, and sometimes that can be fun. But sometimes it can be a bit of a problem, such as in business. You want to make sure that your business decisions are made with clarity of mind and that you know, you know what, this is going to work out. Or, oh, maybe this isn't going to work out. But I'm not sure, and that's okay. Have a proverb for you. Ancient China. And the name is Good Luck, Bad Luck, Who Knows? But here's the story. There was a man living in ancient China, and he had his son, and he had his favorite horse. One day, his horse wanders off, escapes the pen, and all the other villagers come to him and say, "Oh, that's such bad luck." And he says, "Oh, maybe," and leaves it at that. The next day, the horse comes back and brings back 12 wild horses with him. All the villagers come to the man and say, "Wow, that's such good luck. You're so fortunate." And he says, "Well, maybe." The next day, his son is out training these new wild horses, and he gets injured. He breaks his leg. Again, the villagers come around and they say, "Just more bad luck for you. You never catch a break, do you?" And he says, "Well, maybe." The next day, a representative from the empire comes over, the emperor, and says, "Hey, we're at war again. All of your young men need to come and sign up. They're going to be soldiers now." But they left his son because he had a broken leg. Once again, all the villagers came up and said, "You are exceptionally fortunate. I don't know how you do it, but we're very jealous. We wish that we could have our sons with us now." Again, the man simply replied, "Maybe." Oftentimes, when we go into business, we're making an important decision for ourselves in our lives. We want to be confident. We want to say, "I know this for sure," even if that's just not the case. Oftentimes, we don't have that luxury. And sometimes the most appropriate response is to sit back, take a moment and say, "Maybe," and reevaluate from there. If you could pick, going into a business decision, whether you were going to have a mind full of good ideas, aware of the possibilities, very well informed, or if you're going to go into with scraps and bits and pieces, but a really good gut feeling, which would you pick? I'm going to tell you right now, I would encourage you to be well informed. Likewise, let's say you had to work for a manager. Most of us have at some point or another. If you could pick between having a manager who makes decisions based on anger or excitement, they're either really happy or they're really upset, but every time they make their business decisions for your company that it impacts your paycheck, they are really worked up. Would you want that for a manager, or would you want someone who maybe stays calm? And you know, okay, sometimes they get upset, sometimes they get excited, but I can trust them that when they make a good business decision, they're in a clear state of mind. They're not making that decision based on powerful emotions and gut feelings. No, instead they're making it based on observations and patience. They gather their input before they commit to a decision. Let me show you how this ties in with a few examples. Let's take Jake here. Jake is a manager at a local restaurant. And he does his best. He's always very happy and energetic. He likes to get things done. He loves to rally the team around him. But when it comes to solving problems, he always goes with the very first solution he hears that he likes. It doesn't really matter to him so much what is likely or not. It doesn't matter what everyone has to say about an issue. As soon as he hears something that he thinks is going to work, he goes for it, full steam ahead. Over here we have Pam. She's the new CEO of a large chain of restaurants. She is very overqualified for her position, even as a CEO. 2 master's degrees, 20 years of experience in the field, the whole board of directors loves her. But every time push comes to shove and it's time to make a decision, rather than just being humble, she becomes indecisive. And instead of falling back on her own knowledge and the confidence of the people around her, she shies away, and the self-doubts in her mind get the best of her. Over here, we have Steve. And Steve's a pretty good guy, but he tends to be kind of a pessimist. Something is always wrong, and it's usually the worst case scenario. If his manager is upset, it must be his fault. And his manager is probably a jerk. Someone cuts him off on the freeway. Well, that person clearly is just a bad driver and probably a jerk. A customer comes in with complaints. Well, clearly the customer is kind of a jerk, and the products they sell must just be awful. It's never the glass is half full. Each of these would benefit, I would argue, from taking a step back and saying, maybe. Not when it's time to make the decision, but when it's time to think about what decision to make. Jake needs to listen to all of the inputs. He needs to consider every reasonable option before him. And instead of just going with the first thing that sounds good, he needs to be patient and take a minute and say, okay, maybe that's a good solution. And maybe not. Let's hear what else everyone else has to say. Pam struggles with self-confidence. Rather than taking more time to make a decision, she needs to say, okay, maybe this decision I'm going to make isn't going to be the best one, but I'm going to make the decision that I can with the information that I have. So it's time to say maybe, but I have to move. I have to make a decision now, and that's okay. Steve, even though he tends to look at the world through a negative lens, sometimes he needs to answer his pessimism with a maybe. Every time he gets those thoughts that say, hey, you know what, they're probably a jerk, they probably hate you, and you probably deserve it. He can take a step back, look himself in the face, and say, okay, maybe there's a grain of truth there, but I don't know for sure. This is the power of maybe. It's not just an idea, it's not just a thought experiment, it's a tool that we can use to take a step back and help us to make good, informed decisions. And that is especially important in business, or in any significant avenue of your life, really. Don't assume the worst, and don't assume the best. Because, as this says right here, once your mind is made up, right, there is no man so blind as one who has made up his mind. That's from Brian Herbert. Once you've made up your mind, that's it. Don't make it up too early. Take the time to say, maybe.